Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. The program is about to begin. At this time, please turn off all electronic devices. Please refrain from using flash photography during the program. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome John Highbush.
Good evening, everyone. My name's John Highbush. I have the honor of being the executive director of the Ronald Reagan Presidential Foundation and Institute. Thank you all for coming this evening. In honor of our men and women in uniform who defend our freedom around the world, if you please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. Before we get started, there's a few people I'd like to recognize in the audience this evening. I'll start with Mayor Keith Mashburn and his wife, Shelby. Mayor. Former Congressman Elton Galligley and his wife, Janice. I see that Charlie Kirk is here, the founder of Turning Point USA. And I know he's supposed to be with us. Pat Boone. Where is Pat? There he is. There you go, Pat. Okay, so we have a great evening in store for you, so I'm going to be very brief. But before I introduce our special guest who will introduce our speaker tonight, I want to take a moment to also thank a handful of other people we have in our audience this evening who are representing some of America's finest. For those of you who might have arrived late, past sunset, you might not have seen that our beautiful landscape, the incredible hilltop that we're perched on, presently looks more like the moon than Southern California. Many of the gorgeous trees and the greenery that surrounds us is now gone. You might have even smelled a difference in the air, an air that acts as a reminder of what we went through at the Reagan Library just 10 days ago. Indeed, the scene here on October 30th was troubling, literally surrounded by fire at our front gate and all the hills that encircle us. There were moments when the winds were so strong and the flames were so high, I thought there was a real chance we might lose this national treasure called the Reagan Library. Fortunately, on the ground and in the air, we were saved by heroes that we know. Well, we know them as first responders, and I had the chance to watch firsthand these magnificent people in action in the face of some very trying conditions, 50-mile-an-hour winds. They turned back the flames threatening the Reagan Library, Air Force One, right next door, the gravesite of President and Mrs. Reagan, indeed this very auditorium. We have with us tonight a handful of those heroes representing Ventura County's finest, the men and women These men and women literally saved the day and in the process saved the Reagan Library. Ventura County Fire Department Battalion Chief Joe Dullum and his wife Cece, Ventura County Sheriff Commander John Riley, and speaking of heroes, November marks 1 year since the devastating borderline shooting, and tonight we have with us Karen Helas, the widow of Sergeant Ron Helas. If you all would stand, please stand. Each of them represents the thousands of first responders, police, fire, rescue workers, and their families who fought back not only the flames at Reagan Library, but fires and troubles all over Southern California. If you would now, please join me. I want to introduce a special woman who will introduce our special speaker tonight. I have no doubt that she's known to just about everyone in the audience for her roles, whether that involved her public service career as a prosecutor in San Francisco and LA, or her terrific work on Fox News over the years, especially you've seen her on The Five. It's no surprise that she is closely involved in supporting President Donald Trump, and if the news stories are even remotely correct, as closely involved as one can get in support of our speaker this evening. But more on that from her. Ladies and gentlemen, if you would, please join me in welcoming to the stage Mrs. Kimberly Guilfoyle.
Thank you so much. Oh my goodness. What an incredible moment, and good evening to you, fine citizens of the state of California. How are you tonight? So many familiar faces near and dear to me in this audience, and an incredible human being that you're going to hear from in just moments. But I want to say it's wonderful here to live and breathe the American dream. And the first politician that made me feel so inspired, was Ronald Reagan, that great promise and hope of America and of the American dream. And who would have ever thought that a little girl growing up in California who was born and raised in the Mission District in San Francisco, the proud daughter of a wonderful mother who hailed from Aguadilla in Puerto Rico, and a proud Irishman who came from the southern part of Ireland, and the two met and fell in love in San Francisco and began living their American dream. And I had the benefit of an incredible education and that equality of opportunity, not necessarily of result, but of opportunity in this wonderful country that we call America. One that I am proud to stand for, a flag that I am proud to stand for, our first responders, our military, our law enforcement, a sense of new hope and of beginning, of richness of blessing, thanks be to God, yes, that we have all had the opportunity to have, and to be able to share that and hand it on to the next generation. And then now to be able to be here at the Reagan Library is such an incredibly powerful and a humbling moment. And while at UC Davis, getting a great education and studying rhetoric and communications, I had the opportunity to write incredible papers about one Ronald Reagan, a man who filled my heart and my dreams, who literally made me feel that there wasn't anything in the world that I could not accomplish because I was a born free American. Ronald Reagan, an incredible president who didn't see race or creed or color. He saw human beings capable of greatness, of intelligence, of love, of faith, of tremendous heart of liberty, and a quest and a desire for freedom and for peace through strength. And now my heart swells again with the opportunity to be here and to stand as senior advisor to the President of the United States, Donald Trump. This is a president that I feel most embodies the true spirit and the passion that we all felt with Ronald Reagan. And people feel alive, they feel joy, they feel hope. Because like Ronald Reagan, President Trump was someone who did not need the job. And as Reagan used to say, there's tremendous things, right, that we can accomplish, in life if you're not worried about who's going to get the credit. And that is the way President Trump is, and that is the way the incredible American patriotic family, the Trump family, is about giving back to this country and fighting for each and every one of us. And I have traveled across this incredible, bright, big, amazing country that we call America, the United States of America, because more unites us than divides us. Amen. And President Trump gets that, and Ronald Reagan got that. And I fight across this country for the forgotten man and woman, and I fight side by side with Donald Trump Jr. And my God, it's incredible how much he fights. He is the tip of the spear. He was in 2016 to fight for this country and to fight for his father. Because like Ronald Reagan, this family and this incredibly exceptional human being knows you don't live life on the sidelines when everything is at stake, do you? No. You get involved, you put skin in the game, and you fight for what you believe in, and you fight for future generations. And my father, my incredible brother, Anthony Guilfoyle, is here next to Charlie Kirk, and Sergio Gore is here as well. And I'm reminded about the people that we are in the fight with every single day for our freedoms, for our liberty, for the First Amendment, for the Second Amendment, for all of the things that men and women have fought and died to preserve and protect our freedoms, and for the free market. And thank God for the free market and capitalism. It helped produce an incredible American family that understands the value and has helped restore the value of the American dollar with a booming economy that has lifted everyone up. Record low unemployment for African Americans, for Asian Americans, for the veterans in this country. Women doing better than ever before under President Trump. "47% of all new businesses in the United States of America created by hard-working people of color." And God bless President Trump for that, and this family for what they've been able to accomplish. And a family that really asks for nothing back in return, and they take it every single day incoming. Heavy C-130, Farah, I like to call it. And nothing stops them, nothing slows them down, because they believe it is both an honor and a privilege to be a born free American, to fight for this country, to fight for each and every one of us. And someone that connects with the base, that understands the hardworking people across this country. There is no better than Donald Trump Jr. And let me tell you, some of the best moments and weekends away have been those where he has me staying at his buddy's house, whether it's in Iowa on a pull-out bed, or anywhere across this country. We have been in all of the states. And it is inspirational to see the connectivity and how people are transformed together, fighting for one passion and one purpose. And this book is really, it's so incredible that he has really shared all of those moments, the highs, the lows, this incredible journey and front row seat to American political history that he has had as the tip of the spear. And I'm so happy that you're here tonight to honor the family, the president, this incredible country, because this is everything that we all have together to fight for. And thank you for honoring them and for supporting them, for buying his book and being in the fight with us every step of the way. And it gives me great pleasure and great pride to introduce you to someone that I've known dearly for 14 years. He is my best friend, he is my champion. He is a great American, and thanks to Donald Trump Jr. and his father and the Trump family, America will never be a socialist country. Ladies and gentlemen, Donald Trump Jr.
Wow. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Kimberly. Wow. That is such a better welcome than we got on The View the other day. I had a little fun with some of the guys when we were doing the book signing. These men would come through, you know, some big rugged men. I really liked you on The View, Don, the other day. And I go, what the hell were you doing watching The View? And he didn't, I go, I was just kidding. He was like, no, it was just the highlights. I just saw the highlights. I wasn't actually watching The View. But it is great to be here. Kimberly, thank you so much for an incredible introduction. I always get in trouble for saying this, but everyone make note that she kissed me, not the other way around, because I don't need to get Me Too at this age. You know, it doesn't. We have to have a little fun, guys, right? If the left had their way, we could never have fun again, and so, you know, I can't allow that. And yeah, just Kimberly, thank you for the incredible introduction. It's always difficult following Kimberly. I don't usually like to do it because she is so good, she is so nuanced, she's much more beautiful than I am. And it's always tough to follow that because she can do it all, right? She can, as you saw the other day and as you've probably seen over there, she can also go for the kill, but she does it so well, you actually come back for more, and it's, you know, me, I'm a one-trick pony. You need a sledgehammer, I'm your guy. So Kimberly, thank you so much. John, thank you again for having us here. It's truly an honor. Like Kimberly, you know, Ronald Reagan was, you know, one of the true inspirations of my life, one of the, you know, real people that probably pushed me towards conservatism. What he did and what he was able to accomplish in his presidency is a legacy that few would ever live up to. So thank you for having me here. It's an honor to be back. The last time I was here was a little bit different. It was during the I think it was the second presidential debate. And by that stage, my father was no longer on the outskirts, he was in the middle. Low energy Jeb was, come on, guys, I know, baby. Already? Kimberly, who is what I call her princess voice of reason. She's the one when I'm sitting there on Twitter like, this is gonna go big. She's like, no. She just said, already, Don, already? Well, you know, come on, guys. I remember saying it because I was impressed. as was my father. He'd sort of taken a pretty aggressive position in the opening debate, and you could see when he did the low energy thing, you saw the next day Jeb was running a commercial. Remember this? He was like running down the streets. I was like, oh man, it's over, because he's in your head. And so Jeb came to that debate, and he threw a little barb from the side, and my father, it was just a different sort of response. He goes, Jeb, that's great. You brought some energy this time. That's really good. But I was just like, oh my God. It was like a man talking to a little child, and it was over, and we all saw it. He goes, I remember when you were here, Jeb. You're about to fall off the stage. It's getting bad. So it was a different form of presidential debate. So it is great to be back here. And as Kimberly said, it was for me, the last few years have been such an incredible roller coaster of emotions, of experiences that, one can only hope to be able to get to go through. Maybe not the bad side. I did get to see the amazing side in 2015. I got to go all over the country, watch political history unfold in what was arguably probably the greatest upset in political history. Now, I'm not just saying. Not because it should have been, but because the deck was stacked. And I got to go around sort of just middle America, the heart of the country, the places that have been just forgotten for so long. And it was interesting for me because, again, I have to sort of disclaim everything, especially in 2019, that yes, I recognize that I am the son of a billionaire from New York City. I'm sort of an unlikely conservative, right? I'm a guy that's not supposed to be a conservative. I went to an Ivy League school, all those things that doesn't exactly breed conservatism. I spent a lot of time with Charlie Kirk here. Now, truly, the leader of the young conservative movement, someone who has gone around, college campuses, high school campuses, getting children before they're totally indoctrinated into the lunacy that is the left these days. I met Charlie. I met Charlie on the trail, probably early 2016, and a friend of mine said, you got to meet this guy. I go, okay, give me a little bit about him. He's forgotten more about this stuff than you guys will ever know. He knows everything. He's on college campus. I go, give me a little bit more. You go, he's 22 years old. I go, get out of my office. I said, no, seriously. I was like, guys, we have no idea what we're doing here, okay? We have no idea. The last thing I need is more people that have no idea what we're doing, right? We got a good message. We got a good messenger who can deliver it, who's not afraid of fighting. But we don't need more. My friend was rather convincing. He said, no, give me 5 minutes. At the end of that 5 minutes, I go, Charlie, congratulations, you're on my team. Let's just go travel the country. Charlie's the reason I was speaking at college campuses in Michigan, in Wisconsin. Those states that the other side just took for granted and didn't even bother to go to. I think in the last month of 2016, I think we probably spent 14 days of 30 in Michigan and Wisconsin against all odds, against what all the experts. Now, I say experts. You know where I'm sort of going with this, right? It's sort of like a rhino, right? They're experts in name only. They're experts because they've called themselves experts for decades. They just haven't been right in the same amount of time. But we did that, and when the results came in, it was incredible. But for me, I actually traveled the middle of the country. And again, while I came from a place that you wouldn't think that would resonate, my hobbies, sort of hunting, fishing, the great outdoors, all of that stuff took me into, thank you, the heartland of America. And it wasn't, Iowa caucuses. Everyone, you see them, and they're usually in their brand new hunting gear doing something like that, and they're there with their token Iowan that they met 7 minutes earlier. Everyone knows what I'm talking about, right? I'm like, that is the most beautiful hunting clothing I've ever seen. It's like it's never been worn, guys. But you're in Iowa, so we got to take that photo. We're there for the photo op, and I was saying, I'm there with my buddy from the state police, the Iowa State Police, who I've been sleeping on his couch for the last few years during deer season. And so it was this sort of different experience. And the one thing that we've noticed today, and that we noticed, that my father noticed, is that, honestly, people understand and they get genuine. Okay, for me, because I actually did those things, that was actually my lifestyle, it wasn't just a photo op, it went over. They got it. And so, it was interesting. I had we did sort of this hunt in Iowa during the primaries, because it's sort of the thing you do. And, I was sort of giving the speech about the outdoors and how it was a big part of my life and how it sort of got me out of the city, protected me from all of it. Not to say I was an angel. I'm not going to pretend, okay? Between us girls, we'll just keep that amongst ourselves. I wasn't always an angel, but it could have been worse. And so the outdoors was such a big part of my life, and I'm giving that sort of speech in Iowa, and it was actually, I think it was Maggie Haberman of the New York Times, because Charlie was there. She goes, well, how are you different than the other people here? I go, it's a good question. I go, you know what? How many birds did you see go up today? She goes, 9. I go, okay, good. I'm glad you're keeping count. How many shots did I take? She goes, 9. I go, how many birds are in my bag? She goes, 9. I go, no further questions. But again, it wasn't just that formed that basis. I mean, that's sort of, I wrote the book because after that experience, both, again, the great and the not so great, which we'll get into shortly, I had an interesting life. Again, I'm an unlikely conservative. I'm not supposed to be a conservative, but I had a mother who escaped communist Czechoslovakia. And perhaps this is why, for me, it's such an honor to be here at the Reagan Library, the guy that actually took down the Soviet Union. Because for me, unlike so many of those on the left today that are espousing the incredible virtues of socialism and communism, it's no longer a fringe element. They're out there, right? This is like, mainstream pop culture today. Unlike them, I've actually experienced it myself. Like, I've actually been there. I had a grandfather who was a blue-collar electrician from communist Czechoslovakia, and he saw the incredible blessings that we had in this country, the incredible freedoms that we had, all of the things that we should be so proud of. And he said to my father and to my mother, he's like, your kids are incredibly blessed, but you have to see the other side. They were very involved in my life, and from about the age of 5, I went over there with him every summer for 4 to 6 weeks. I've waited in those bread lines. I can assure you it's not so glamorous when you're actually doing it. I have a 93-year-old grandmother who's still alive. And she's still over there, and she spends some time here with us every year. And I get the call every few weeks. She only has CNN and sort of let's call it leftist propaganda networks over there. No, there is no alternate programming, right? So she calls me, and this is a woman, again, probably tougher than most of us. Maybe not as much as our first responders here, by the way. Thank you all for being here, and thank you for protecting this place. But this is a woman who spent her early 20s in the basement of her farmhouse for a few years, hiding from the Nazis. This is a person who then lived through communist occupation for approximately 40 years. I always found it ironic when they were said, he speaks Czech fluently, that's the connection to Russia. I was like, have you read European history? Like, they're not exactly fans. They'll try anything, folks. But this lady who's been through a lot will call me every few weeks in tears because she sees these virtues being espoused as though they're so wonderful, and she's telling me, Donnie, you don't, we're speaking Czech, but I'll do the best grandma imitation I can do, right? You don't understand. It always sounds so good. Everything's always free. It never works that way. And when I hear the voice break on this person who was such a big part of raising me, who I love so much, who went through so much, who then got to watch her daughter live the American dream, and she's in tears for fear of her grandkids, me, and her great-grandchildren. I mean, doesn't that tell us all we need to know? And that's why I ask, when I see these virtues being brought up in mainstream political conversations today. I mean, I feel it's sort of, it's the other side, right? I say, it's interesting that there are no people, not one, who've actually lived under those systems who are willing to come here and say, no, we got to bring that here right now. It's so wonderful. It's great. No, I say it seriously. I go, how many people are there from, let's call it Soviet bloc Eastern Europe, former Soviet Union, China? How about bring it closer to home? Venezuela, Cuba? I mean, that's millions and millions of people. And there's not one. I mean, the Democrats can find anyone to say something stupid. Just look at the debates. All right? All right. They say some really dumb stuff, and they can't find one person who's lived under those systems who will vouch for them here? Doesn't that tell us all we need to know? So, that was the genesis of the book Triggered. And again, for those of you who watched The View, you can understand why we named it that. Because today, it is just the view. There's only one. Okay? And if you don't share that one view, it's over. You're canceled. I use that example in the book. I use the example of, Martina Navratilova, right? She was a, incredible tennis player. We knew her growing up. She was sort of one of the similar story to my mother, right? Escaped Czechoslovakia, became an incredible athlete. She's a lesbian, has been an LGBT activist for 35 years before it was cool, right? Like, out there forever. And a few weeks ago, she came out. Listen, I don't love the notion of, the trans men or women, turning into women and competing against women in sports. As a female athlete, that was her opinion. So this is someone. Yeah. I applauded it. I think it's totally reasonable, and I'm a pretty live and let person. I don't care what you do. Identify who you want. It makes no difference to me. But when you start doing that, you start competing against it. I saw an MMA fighter who was a male professional fighter transition to female and proceeded to fight against the females and broke the orbital bone and skull of what was a great woman fighter. I see weightlifting records being destroyed. I see bicycle world records being decimated. And I say, where are the feminists? Right? Where are the reasonable people that fought for Title IX, that fought for women's rights? Where are those? Because as the father of two girls, one of them who's already an incredible athlete, I just say, where do we ever draw the line? And so for Martina Navratilova, incredible, she came out, said, I'm sort of against this notion. Like, where can we got to separate the sports out, or certainly the elite sports out. And within minutes, it was over. She was attacked by those she advocated for 40 years. It was as though anything she had done prior to this for her entire life, her life's work, was just meaningless because she didn't take it as far as they needed it to be taken. Now, again, those goalposts are never ending. They are always moving, okay? Does everyone know what woke is? This is sort of a new, ridiculous phrase, but what's woke today is like alt-right in about a week, right? It never ends. So this woman who'd done all this comes out, gets destroyed by her people. So 3 weeks later, she has to come back and hit Trump. She walks it back, and then she goes after Trump because that's the only way to get your penance, to maybe get accepted back in there. But I see these stories throughout, and I've had the blessings of being able to go around on the campaign trail to fight for conservative values, for conservatives, for people who are actually doing the things and fighting for the virtues they espouse on the campaign trail. And I started telling these stories, and people were like, you got to put this stuff down. For years they said, hey, you should write a business book. I think my father may have covered that with The Art of the Deal. I don't know. I was like, I don't expect to beat him in sales, but I don't want to be decimated. I still have that Trump gene, a little bit of ego. I was like, we're just going to let that one go. But this was a unique experience. And when you start hearing that over and over, you start doing it. And I said, it was right. We got to be the tip of the spear of the greatest political upset in history. And then I also got to be the #2 target of the greatest witch hunt in modern history. Yeah. Yeah. Being sort of the #2 target of what I call the Mueller hoax. Right? I mean, this is what's going on, and this is what's going on again today. You see what happened then. You saw what transpired. And I went through it for 2.5 years, millions of dollars in legal fees. I have half of Congress saying they're going to try me for treason. Not hyperbole. They're actually saying this. I'm like, that's punishable by death. Minor details. I took a 20-minute unsolicited meeting, but sure. I was like, you had no problem with Hillary Clinton paying millions of dollars to foreign operatives to go into countries. Yeah. So foreign agents are going into other countries, collecting phony dirt, giving it to the FBI, who then leaks it to the press, also known as the marketing wing of the DNC. The press then writes a story which is used as the basis for a hoax FBI investigation. And it failed, and it failed, and it failed, and everyone sort of got it. I mean, I dedicated the book to the deplorables because they were the ones that never even wavered. But you saw it, and you saw the desperation every time they're trying to do something else. I mean, I'm still waiting for Adam, let's call him Adam full of Schiff. I did not curse at the Reagan Library princess. I know it was not. That's his name. I'm still waiting for the evidence he kept saying for 3 years on national TV that to the American people that he had seen that proved collusion. That didn't work out so well, but no accountability on that side. There's a double standard. We can get into that, and I covered it in the book pretty heavily as well. But when you did 30 hours of testimony in front of the House, the Senate, and all of those things, I was like, this is kind of good material. And then after failing and flailing away for 3 years, spending $40 million of American taxpayer money, hiring 19 Hillary Clinton donors, because obviously they had no bias. I mean, 7 of them were at like the celebration that never happened, when they were going to break the glass ceiling. I don't know. Minor details, but I'm sure they were being very objective in their prosecution. They went with their trump card. We're going to put Robert Mueller on the stand. And I remembered within about 30 seconds, I'm on Twitter, be like, somebody please ask him if he's actually read the report that bears his name. I'm typing. I got a little bit of the Trump Tourette's of the thumbs, right? And so this whole setup, you realized it was all a sham. He was there not because he was a great prosecutor or because he was going to be a great investigator or he was going to be unbiased. He was there because of his priors, his past. He was a decorated Marine, and he was the former head of the FBI, so he was above reproach. He wasn't there because he was good at his job. He was there because Trump wouldn't be able to fight back at him without the media being able to have a field day with it. And that's exactly what we're seeing today in version #2 with the impeachment nonsense. The outrage of last week, and I tend to be at the center of all of this outrage for some reason. I got that Trump gene. If I see something wrong, I'm going to say it, and we're going to hit back. But I saw it. Donald Trump Jr. outs the whistleblower. I go, I did? I did? No, but look, I wish I did. But they make it seem like, I hired a team of spies to figure out who the CIA operative whistleblower was. I didn't. I retweeted an article that had his name in the title of the article. I'm like, if this is some sort of secret, you guys don't know what secret actually means. It was literally on the Drudge Report. I mean, the View people goes, but many people don't know what Drudge Report. It's the largest news aggregator in America. I was like, seriously? It was on there for 4 days. It was Real Clear Politics. And I realized it's Robert Mueller all over again. They weren't mad that I outed him. They were mad that now that the name is out there, people could actually do some research, like has been done over the last few days. They could realize that this guy was Joe Biden's special guest at a state dinner. They could figure out that this guy worked with, the Brennan guys, and all of these people that started coup version number 1, who lied to Congress but miraculously totally gets away with it because he's on the team. They could see the photograph of this man crying. Remember the photograph outside of the Oval Office the day after the election? With Susan Rice crying like a little child. And they realize then when the lawyer of his comes to the defense, other than the real weird allegations like, oh, I've gotten security clearances for kids who are, for guys that have been put away for child porn. I was like, I don't know if I'd be admitting that on Twitter. You see the guy's feed. January 2017. The coup has started. Impeachment is next. And you realize, here we go again, folks. It's just another setup. And so that's what we've been dealing with. Kimberly, you alluded to all the successes. You notice how that's never actually spoken about? All-time low unemployment. For everyone, African Americans, for Hispanics, for women. All-time high startup businesses. How about even his haters are saying, you know what, I don't like the guy, but he's doing all of the things he said he was going to do. I mean, Trevor Noah, not exactly a fan, is saying this. I go, isn't that supposed to be what politicians do? When did we get to a place where that is no longer the norm? And how sad is it that it isn't? So they don't talk about that. What we saw at the last debate was, how can we take Donald Trump's Twitter account away? You know what wasn't mentioned? China. Since we're at the Reagan Library, China's sort of the year 2000 version of what was then the Soviet Union. And they didn't even talk about it, but they spent a lot of time trying to limit the President of the United States' free speech. If that doesn't tell you all we need to know, I don't know what does. So again, I had to sort of get all this down. I had to put it on paper. I had to have some fun with it. And it was sort of nice because, again, most people are used to me sort of doing the short form bomb on social media. I have mastered that art. I have learned from the best. But to be able to put it in long form, to be able to take my experiences, to be able to really spell it out so that people can see. Again, it's actually much less of a political book than it is a book on our culture, because that's what I believe is at stake. There's never been a greater divide between the ideologies of both parties. There has never been more, oppression and suppression of free speech. We get into that as it relates to social media and the hypocrisy of mainstream media. And so it was time to do that, and it's my honor to be out there continuously fighting for the beliefs that we all had, for the America that Ronald Reagan wanted us to all be able to live. And I want to make sure that that extends to our children and to our grandchildren and for generations to come, because it is worth fighting for. So thank you so much for having me here today. Thank you, Kimberly. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you. I'm not allowed to tell you who to vote for, okay? That's against the rules. I think I know the answer. Don't even think about it, okay? Leave me alone. 2024. Let's worry about 21st, okay? But again, it's a true honor to be here. I imagine, given the faces that I've seen walking down the corridors here that have stood behind this podium, I imagine that was a little bit unconventional. So I apologize for that, John. But I think we're going to take some questions. You guys good with that?
Yeah.
All right. How do you want to handle it?
Thank you, Don. We'll wait. A lot of hands are up. We have staff that are roaming the aisles with microphones. If you'd just do us one favor, and that is wait till the microphone's put in your hand so that we can hear you. And we'll get as many questions as we can in the limited amount of time we have. So we'll start right here.
On the environment, I think we have to take a different tack. I'd like your opinion. Make them walk their talk. All colleges, universities, high schools off the grid. All their faculty, staff, administrators driving solar-powered cars. And it comes out of their current budgets to set the moral example for the rest of us ignorant heathens.
Well, listen, I think that was probably more of a statement than a question, but listen, I do believe we have to protect our environment. I'm not, though, willing to destroy our entire middle class while the rest of the world sits by and waits and does nothing, and while I'm getting lectured by your friendly neighbors in Hollywood down the road while they're flying over there in individual G5s. So you're right. We can do that. America has been leading that charge, but they've been doing it through capitalism and the free markets on their own. We don't have to penalize ourselves with trillions of dollars while China and India, the largest polluters in the world, sit by and say, well, we'll talk about this in 10 years, because guess what happens in 10 years? They say, give us another 10. When everyone's walking the walk, I'm more than happy to. And again, we are doing it as a country, but we should be pushing them to do it, not taking the heat ourselves while destroying the middle class of America. That's what stupid politicians have been doing for far too long.
Right over here.
Can you please ask your father to come to California?
Wow. Well, with that kind of response, I'm not sure I have a choice, right? So
I just want to say we have no representation here in California, and we need him. We need him desperately.
And it is important, and it is worth fighting for. And again, I don't make any illusion that you win the presidency here. I mean, that's sort of, but there are a lot of House seats that are in districts that are conservative, that need to be fought for. And there are a lot of people in this state that have come to me who are sick of the nonsense, who are sick of terrible policy, who are sick of, reasonable decision makers allowing you to do stuff like maybe get rid of some of the standing dead timber that makes you light on fire every few weeks. So I think with what I've seen, and I hear from so many people, even people that are moderate centrist, even some that are lean left, they're sick of chasing that same goalpost, the never-ending wokeness. They actually want to see some action. So there's no question that there are seats that can be won back in the state. So we will be working on that, I bet. And we want your help, though. We do need, you need people to be active. The problem I see in a lot of places like this is, hey, Don, you guys are doing a great job. I was like, well, I need you to step up. I need you to let your friends know it. Once they get that little awakening, I'll tell a great story, Kimberly, the Valentine's Day story, right? Because I think it resonates. Even though this was New York, the People's Republic. Although honestly, California is also the People's Republic at this point. So Kimberly goads me into taking her to a Valentine's Day dinner on the Upper East Side of New York. Not exactly a bastion of conservative thoughts and principles, but she saw red teddy bears outside and thought it was very romantic. Romance is probably not my forte, but I went with it. So I'm at this restaurant, and we're having a dinner, and I'm sort of looking around, and I sort of, again, the Upper East Side of New York. I'm sitting there like, who's the guy? Who's the guy that's going to create a scene? Who's the guy that's going to start a fight? Who's the guy that's going to do something to, to be woke on Instagram, whatever it may be? And I'm sitting there I'm miserable the whole meal. And no, because I'm waiting. Listen, hey, we're fighters, so but we're not going to get ambushed either, right? We're sort of waiting for it. And so we get through with dinner, and everyone's giving me side eye, at least in my mind. And we pay the bill, we're walking out, and there's an older lady from the Upper East Side, that New York accent. And she stands up right in my face. She goes, "You!" And I go, "Oh, man, I'm going to have to punch an old lady." I'm just kidding. Sorry, princess. One trick pony, baby. So, just kidding, but I'm like, this is the scene. I get to read about this because I can't punch an old lady. If it was another guy, he grabs me, that's a different story maybe, and she just goes, "You guys have the biggest in the world, and I love it." I'm like, so I'm sitting there. John is having a heart attack. He can't believe that this is going on at the Reagan Library, okay? I apologize, buddy. But it was amazing because it was that moment where everyone in the restaurant, all of those people I thought were giving me that side eye, they stood up, started clapping, they started taking selfies. And so everyone that I thought was there vehemently against me, they just didn't know how to respond. They weren't sure. They were afraid of what others would think because they've been put in a corner, just like the people on election day in our exit polls, right? Man, we were supposed to be winning that. We're losing by 12, but here I go, how many people are giving you about 15%? I go, congratulations, we're up 3. That's a Trump voter. They just didn't want to be put in a corner. They didn't want to be boxed, but the second someone had the guts to say something, everyone else realized that. They were all fine with me, but they just weren't willing to take that next step. So I'll say, we'll be here, but we need you all to take that next step too, to call your friends, to be active, to donate, to volunteer, to do it all, okay?
Over here. Right here.
No, I don't know. I haven't spoken to him in the last 30 seconds. But, again, we have to put up good candidates. And I will say this, one of your congressmen in this great state, Kevin McCarthy, is actually doing an amazing... He's actually doing an amazing job as it relates to just that, which is candidate recruitment. Republicans all over, the Paul Ryan sort of school of thought was, well, whoever's here, whoever's been in it, we're just going to let them run. They could be 785 pounds with no shtick, no ability, no this, but they've been there long enough, so we'll let them run. I'm going to focus on the comma on page 4,776 of a policy piece that no one has read. Kevin's done the opposite. I mean, he's going out there. He's finding people who can win, who have the passion, who need a little bit of that push. He calls me, hey, can you call this person? They're super MAGA. They want to do it. They just want to know that you're going to be in their corner, and I'll do it. And I love seeing that because that's how to win. We can't just, again, run someone. The Democrats, they do a great job. I mean, they'll find someone, former, Marine, awesome looking, yada, 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 great track record. They're basically a conservative, but then once they get to DC, Chuck and Nancy take over and they turn into communists and you wonder what the heck happened. Like, no more of that. So, there are people and, they're in your backyard and they're fighting that fight because that's the way to win.
Good. We have time for one last question. We'll go right here. Yeah, we're running out. But please, excuse me. There you go.
Oh.
Go ahead, please.
Ladies, you can't all fight over me. Kimberly's going to get very upset.
Go ahead.
I'm a patriotic Jewish Republican, proud. And I have one simple question for you. And that is, why is it during the Democratic debates they don't have the American flags in the background representing us? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, listen, I've said this in my speeches. I've said it in things. I mean, it was so great to come here and to hear the pledge, to see these sort of things. Some of my places, they'll do an invocation, they'll do the pledge, they'll do the Star Spangled Banner. I say, man, that's the trifecta. If you did that at one of these DNC rallies, they'd throw you in jail for 35 years. So, because it's important, and so it's just not something that they take all that seriously. And you can look at the policies, and someone will say, "Oh, that's terrible of you to say," but that's the reality. I mean, you saw last time in 2016 during the Democratic National Committee meetings, they literally had forgotten flags on the stage there, and we're trying to scramble to get them because I'm sitting there and be like, "What's going on here?" It's just a different factor, but it is also great to see some Jewish Republicans because When you see flagrant anti-Semitism in Congress, it's truly disgusting to me. And I know for my father, who, after 40 years, moved the embassy in Israel to its rightful home in Jerusalem. Now, this is something that has been de facto U.S. policy for decades, right? Bush, Clinton, other Bush, Obama, they all said they were going to do it, but no one did. They all campaigned on it. They all made that promise. Then my father actually did it. Remember the media? It was going to be the start of World War III. I go, this passed the United States Senate one time, 99-0. It was insane, right? I go, the start of World War III managed to pass the United States Senate resoundingly. I don't know. Seems like a major failure of checks and balances. Then they said billions of people were going to, billions. I was like, wow, that's a big number. I mean, billions of people were going to die. And what happened? 2 people threw rocks for 7 seconds. But that's the difference between a politician and someone who knows how to get things done. Someone who's done it. And that is why we get this kind of response, because that's no longer the norm. So thank you very much. Now, if we can do some more, I'll do some more, but I'm on your clock, John. I'm on your clock.
Donald, we cannot thank you enough for coming. Thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Thank you very much. Thank you again, guys. Thank you.